So, Lebo, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
But before we go into the future, can you tell us a little bit more about your own background? Where did you grow up?
So I actually have a very interesting, unique South African upbringing in that, we lived in the townships of Soshanguve. My dad had businesses in the area and enough to, built a beautiful big home for myself and my two brothers. But we went to private schools in the beautiful leafy suburbs of Pretoria. And that's where I think I was exposed to worldly views, in that a lot of the ambassadors' children would attend those schools. I remember having a Polish friend and a Chinese friend and being 5 years old in 1990, attending a private school and getting exposed to a world that my parents didn't know about. During the holidays, it was, semi-rural areas or visiting relatives, or rural areas, or being on my grandmother's farm. So I think my upbringing was quite privileged in some senses. I was playing badminton, which is so bizarre. Played badminton in primary school and being exposed to, computer lessons, different languages, different cultures, different foods, and also being very in touch with what the realities of a black person were, which is, the tough, low economic standards of living, but also seeing, black people taking ownership of things like townships and creating businesses for themselves. So I would say my upbringing was quite well-rounded.
So when did you leave Soshanguve?
So we moved out of Soshanguve as I was going to high school. I would have been 13 years old. So wait, I'm trying to calculate 11 years ago. That's, 11 years ago, goodness. So that would have been about 2008, okay. Around there. 1998. Oof, wow, I'm actually getting old, the way I'm miscalculating. So we moved, 1998, moved to Pretoria North, right, which is more of your suburban areas, closer to my dad's business. And then we all got an opportunity to go to boarding school. And obviously that creates its own sense of independence, right, and self-discipline, because you don't have your parents hovering over you.
And tell me, what was your dream career when you grew up?
It's interesting because in as much as I'm a full-on creative, it wasn't a career in my mind at the time. I always thought, because I was really good at maths and science, either I'm going to be a lawyer, because I talked a lot, and I'm going to defend people's rights, or I'm going to go into something pretty academic like being an actuarial scientist or an engineer. So I had a number of things on my mind, but I never thought I'd be doing what I am doing now. Even though I knew I loved it, it was never in my mind that could be a career.
So at what stage did you enter the media world?
So when I was younger, there's a woman, I must have been about 8 or 9 years old, and I was walking the mall with my mom, and a woman came to my mom and said, listen, I think your daughter's got something. Bring her to some auditions. So I would be entered into pageants and, walking like a fashion show at Edgar's. So I kind of feel like in some levels I was in the business the whole time. But where I would say I was consciously in the business is when I was 17. And I auditioned for a show and they made me an offer. And that was in my matric year while, we're busy making decisions about what we want to study in varsity. And the opportunity came for me to do a theatre production, which ultimately meant I would not write my matric finals with my peers. It would have to be deferred to later. And I think there was nothing in my head that was saying, don't do this. It was saying, do it. And I basically left school and I had to teach myself. So that was when I was 17 years old, living in Pretoria, and I got the opportunity of a lifetime to be a lead in a musical theatre production called Fame the Musical. And the show did really well. They extended the run. We did a run in Cape Town. We did a run in Johannesburg. And that was the start of my career.
So where did you go from there?
So from there, the timing was very awkward. I couldn't start varsity. But I just took on small gigs where people needed a singer in studio or needed a musician. I would call myself a hustler. I was hustling now. And I kind of decided that I'll register for UNISA so that I can work. And there was an agent that had spotted me in the show who agreed to represent me and started sending me to auditions. Interestingly enough, while all of that was happening, I started sending faxes, because we had faxes at the time, we didn't have emails, to different ministers to say, I need to know what to do with my life, but there's no content on TV that tells me, can we do a show? I sent to the Minister of Sports, the Minister of Arts and Culture, Minister of Education, and some of them wrote me back saying, we can't help you, but then one wrote me back and said, why don't you go to a production company? So I started researching production companies, and I told them, I think we need a show that tells people what people's careers are. Like, show us a day in the life of Lucas Radebe or whoever. And they said, we can't give you a show, but we'd love for you to come work for us because we think you're bright. So I was now 18 years old, working in TV production at Red Pepper Pictures, while I had an agent that was sending me for auditions and teaching me to be a voiceover artist. And I haven't looked back ever since. I mean, I started studying law while I was doing everything. And then I was like, no. I actually can make enough money to pay a lawyer. Let me just expand my career.
Right. And Lebo, who inspired you in your early days?
I was very, very fortunate that I had really great teachers. I remember I had a music teacher when I was in primary school. My friends and I would always meet at break time to try and sing the harmonies that we'd hear in different songs. And she would always observe us, and she decided to create a little group outside of the choir, which was so great because we ended up singing for Mandela when Naomi Campbell came to visit South Africa. The first time I met Mandela was because of that teacher. Right. Who just exposed me to this world of music, and I learned to play the marimbas, I learned to play different percussion, we'd dance, we'd sing, and I'd say she's one of my early inspirations, who, funny enough, I was on air about a year and a half or 2 years ago, and she phoned the radio station to say, I just heard you on radio and I'm so proud of you. And then she left the message with the producer. So that was one of my early ones. Another one, definitely my headmistress in high school. Her name was Mrs. Kitto, Alison Kitto. She was the one who, when I said to her, I'd love to do this show, but it means I need to leave school. And I was a prefect and had duties. And she said, okay, cool, I'm going to call your parents in for a meeting. And she basically said, look, yes, your daughter's bright, but she's special. And not everybody has to take the traditional form of school. And funny enough, she was a high academic who wrote some of the textbooks that we were using. But she said, no, she's special, so don't create space for her to resent you because you won't let her follow her dreams. And then she just said to me, you have to basically sign a contract with your parents that no matter what happens, you'll write your matric finals. Even though I wasn't able to sign contracts, they still made me do it. I was 17. I respect her so much for having believed in a girl whose parents, as black middle class family who feel like we want kids to graduate and have degrees. And she was able to convince them that this could be the best thing for her. And she was right. So that was another person. Have a lot of teachers who inspired me, but also, look at the women around me. My grandmother, who was a big part of raising me, taught me some very humbling values of just how to treat people. And I think that has helped me in developing solid relationships that have carried me. Just, something as simple as treating everybody the same, whether they are the cleaner or the CEO, or always keeping your heart and home open to people who are less fortunate, even if you have nothing. I think about my aunt, who was a businesswoman, strong, really, really solid woman. She's late now. And she taught me, a simple lesson, because I'd ask her, you're always in church, but you have so much money. How did you do it? And she simply said, if your hands are open, you will receive. So you always have to give with an open hand and an open heart. But if your hands are closed because you want to hold on to things, you're never going to get anything in return. So I had a lot of positive, strong female influences that influenced not just me in my career, but also principles as a woman that have helped my career.
So, Lebo, looking back over your career, would you say there was a major turning point where things could have turned out different, but you decided to take your career in a certain direction?
Well, definitely the first one was me making the choice to not follow up a bursary in actuarial science, because it meant I wasn't going to follow the traditional form. I was going to do a musical, a show, be on stage, and then not know what's going to come next. That was a big turning point. But it's so weird, when you're young and you're not influenced by the fear of bills and rent and responsibilities. You make raw decisions that are more truthful to self. So that was a turning point. I'd say other turning points were opportunities that came that looked great on the surface, but something in my gut was just like, this is not for me. I never considered a career in radio until other people said, we like your voice on radio. Have you thought about doing radio? And then I just added it to my 5-year plan to say, okay, let's explore radio. And that's become such a powerful medium in my life.
Right.
Another turning point, I'd say the recent one was the decision to, leave talk radio at 702 to go to music radio at MetroFM and taking up the skill of reading the news. Big turning point where it affected my entire life. My hours were shifted. My audience was different. I had to learn a new environment. A couple of things. I remember I once got an opportunity to go and be in a musical and to be singing in Spain. And the idea, I must have been like early 19, 20 years old. And somebody said to me, it sounds great. You're going to earn, in euros. You're going to be living on a beautiful island and you're going to be doing what you love every night. But you are still young. Stay at home and still build your brand and career. You might leave and then people forget you. And it was so enticing to want to get your passport ready and go overseas. But I ended up not going. And right. I was glad I took that advice. So that was my first producer and boss, Hazel Feldman, who was like a mother to me at the time, who just said, you're really talented. You don't have to take every opportunity that comes your way because you're afraid of not getting other opportunities. Sometimes your gut will say, this is not for me.
So today, Lebo, you're producing a radio show, you're producing a number of TV shows. Can you tell us what exactly is contained in your portfolio?
Oh, gosh. So on radio at the moment, I'm reading news. I'm a contributor on what we call the King's Suite on MetroFM. Also contribute to the content and some of the subjects that we talk about. Television, so I've been a TV producer for years, and there's a show called The Remix on SABC 1. It's going to be coming back for a second season, so we're working on that. Got some shows that are coming through at Mnet, reality shows. So I'm a partner in a production company, and we're basically in development phase at the moment with a whole lot of new type of shows and content. my portfolio also includes doing a lot of voiceovers. This morning I did 2 voiceovers, and that ranges from, television to radio, any kind of brand you can think of, from hard sell to soft sell, conversational, doing voices for documentaries, films, ads. What else do I do? Goodness, I sing. Though I don't do it as often as I would love to, because actually music is my first love. Yeah. But now and then, you might hear my voice in the commercials. I sit on the board of the Southern African Music Rights Organization, which is the biggest rights collecting organization in Africa. I recently was the acting chairperson till about a few weeks ago. We now have our independent chairperson. That's one of the things I'm involved in, simply because I would love to, champion the cause for women to own in the industry, for women to also not just see the music industry as being a face and a voice, that you can actually be a publisher, you can be a composer, you can be an author, you can be a songwriter. You don't have to be the one that's out there, but also just understanding the basics of the industry. One of the things I'm in the works with is I'm trying to develop a course for the music business. A lot of the times we complain about artists die poor in this country because they don't understand the laws, they don't understand contracts, we don't know how to manage our finances properly. So that's one of the things I'm doing. I have a foundation, and I'm very passionate about mentoring young girls. Like, we take on ad hoc requests, helping girls with matric dances, graduation, and doing mentorship for matric girls, but we try to expand, and wherever we can help, it's finding a home that needs something and going to corporates asking for donations. So that's a bit of my philanthropy work, though I have to give credit to my team because they do the bulk of the work. I also am still a student of life. Right. I just finished a course with Berklee College of Music called Music Business Trends and Strategies. And I think it's obviously critical in an industry which is becoming more digitized, where rights and laws are changing. I mean, we've got the Copyright Amendment Bill, which is sitting at the moment. We always have to keep in the know as to what is happening, but how it's going to, change my approach to making revenue. Right. My business, we make music for television. We also publish composers specifically for television. So we're not focused on like radio play. It's more of, it's on TV, it's guaranteed to play. So those are some of the things. I hope I haven't left anything out. I hope, those are some of the things that are on my plate at the moment.
So Lebo, what is driving you today?
I like some very nice things. That's one of the drivers. I like to have options. I think, so last night, one of the things I did was I started writing a list of things that I need to do more of. I mentioned to you before we started about how, oh my goodness, I haven't been reading. I have an amazing catalog of books in my study that I haven't touched. And things that drive me is things like listening to podcasts that are inspirational, listening to people's stories, what drove them. I would love to be a disruptor. I am thinking a lot about the fact that life is not guaranteed. I could die tomorrow, and I'd like to leave a powerful legacy that is not just about me being a TV presenter that you see on TV, but that I want to break ceilings and change the game. I want to be remembered for something positive. I want someone to walk around saying the trajectory of my life changed for the positive because of that woman. And also I like nice things. That's also driving. It's like, how do we make more money to have more choices, have nice things, but also, take care of my loved ones and give them similar exposure, like traveling and going overseas and seeing the world and being able to eat in Michelin star restaurants and just have beautiful experiences.
Right. Now, Lebo, talking about leadership, what does the future of leadership mean to you?
It's very interesting that we're having this conversation now because, we've been scheduling this for months. And there's no coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Yesterday, I was in a director training session. And as usual, I'm the youngest person in the room. And I was speaking to all the different people. We were just doing a boardroom scenario. And, everybody likes to quote King 4, quote, companies act, da-da-da-da-da. And I was the one in the room who was like, I generally operate from a place of gut and a place of common sense. And some of the greatest leaders of our current generation didn't do things because that's how they were always done. They did things because they said, if this is A and this is B, what's my shortest way to get there with the greatest impact, with the whatever? That for me is what the future of leadership is. I was surrounded by phenomenal people who come from so many different industries, food to IDC, public-private sector, who said to me, the fact that you speak your mind and you follow your gut, that is what is going to break bounds. And in my mind, I think that's the future of leadership. I think what makes people listen to me when I talk is not because I'm the most educated person. I think I speak my mind as respectfully and as clearly and as articulately as possible. I am comfortable to be wrong. I'm also open enough to say, I'm here to learn. I think those are some of the traits that make a fantastic leader. And for me, future leaders are people who are able to influence. Right. Not like Instagram influencers, but people who can influence people to change behavior. That is so powerful. People who can influence people to say, you don't have to call a cab. You can just open an app on your phone. You are changing mindset. That is powerful, especially considering as human beings, it's unnatural to, we don't like change, even if it's for the positive. If you're capable of switching that switch of change,
right? For
me, that's what a future leader is. Then you can convince people to do anything, to recycle, to protect the environment, to stop smoking, to make sure that they go to the doctor and, have preventative measures to cancer. That for me is leadership.
So Lebo, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
I think I've learned that we need each other as human beings more than we think we do. It doesn't matter how powerful you might be it because of money or because of your position or because you have influence. You will still need people, which means there's certain skills you need to have to get the most out of people. So even if you're Oprah Winfrey, you still need to convince people to work well under you and follow your vision. Even if you're Richard Branson or Mark Zuckerberg, you still need people. That for me is one of the greatest lessons, is treat everybody as if you need them. Because if you meet someone who you think you'll never need, the likelihood is you're gonna brush
Dismiss
them off.
them, yeah.
Yes, treat everybody like you need them. I think other lessons I've learned is I will keep reiterating, you're always a student, be it through formal education or just by having an inquiring mind that wants to read or talk to strangers.
Right.
I had an interesting discussion with someone yesterday about the schooling system and how, in my mind, when I have kids, they're not going to go to school. We're going to do self-directed education. We might decide to live in Spain for 6 months just to learn the language and the culture. And I think we need to start thinking a lot less institutionalized and a lot more, what is the shortest point from A to B, where everybody can win. So I think those are some of the things that I'm learning, and also just how to listen to my intuition a little bit better.
Right.
Because I'm a Virgo and I'm a perfectionist and I like to have a million lists. Sometimes I do too many pros and cons lists when the answer was inside me all along.
Okay. Now, Lebo, when you speak to aspiring leaders, what is it you tell them? How should they navigate around social media? And how should they use social media to build their own leadership?
I would say aspiring leaders and social media is, we focus on the wrong things sometimes. So, for example, you'll say something like, be careful of saying something on radio, millions of people are listening to you. And in my mind, I'm like, as long as one person is listening, that in itself is reason enough to curate yourself. Whether you're on social media, whether you're on radio, whether you're in a room with your daughter. So it's understanding that sometimes we focus on the following, not remembering that one follower is enough. That's an audience. So with your audience, however big or small, you have influence over them. And with the power of influence comes the responsibility of understanding the impact of your words and the things you show. Yes, it's your own platform. Yes, people choose to follow you. But we all as human beings have a certain responsibility because it is a gift to walk this earth and have whatever blessings and privileges we are afforded. So in my mind, it's to say, focus on the things that are truly reflective of you, because you still got to be truthful to self.
Right.
Keeping in mind that you understand that it will live there forever. So try not to make decisions off of temporary emotions, because once it's online, it's online. And try also to not take yourself so seriously all the time. Like, I love the fact that as South Africans, we can make jokes and memes out of the silliest things, and we can make fun of ourselves. Not everything is that deep. We're bombarded with content about rape and war and people dying and fires and climate change. Sometimes it's actually okay to take 5 minutes to be silly and make fun of yourself. So I think those are some of the things. Let's not focus on the number of following, but just understand that it takes one person. You can change one person's life. That isn't that an amazing thing, an amazing gift to have?
Absolutely. Now, Lebo, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored somebody and that person took your advice to heart?
I have some great stories. I think, I think about some of the work I've done with my matriculants. And all I did, was go to all my well-known friends in the media, from your rappers, Nadia Nakai, Gigi Lemaine, Shoma Josie, to actresses and presenters, Zizo, Chwete, all of them. And I just said, now that you're out of high school, what advice would you give to a matriculant? Because perspective is a funny thing. When you're in matric getting ready to write finals, it's the biggest thing in your life. When you're an adult living real life, that thing means almost nothing. So some of the success stories came from having a session where a lot of the girls shared their concerns. But a lot of their concerns had nothing to do with writing exams. It was to do with how do I relate better with my mother? Because if I can create a healthy environment at home, I can be better. And I was so fortunate enough that the girls we had with us on the day, 9 girls, all passed, some with distinctions, some with bachelors, because of one really solid session that didn't focus on practice your maths or revise. It was just general life things that we deal with as women, or how can I deal with the fact that I have a boyfriend but I need to study. Just really simple practical things. So a lot of the success stories, I think, came out of that session. Some of the girls got to go to varsity, others of them got internship opportunities. I've had a whole lot of kids that came to work with me. They were complete juniors straight out of school, and now they got great jobs at SABC or production companies. I wouldn't even be able to pick one. I'm trying to think. I've got a cousin who has been working with me. Actually, I'll tell you a better story. My younger brother, he finished his CA studies and said, I don't have a job. So I said, okay, cool. Come work for me for a year and a half, and let's see.
Are you guys doing fine?
I'll pick it up from I have a younger brother.
That's fine.
So I have a younger brother, and when he finished his studies, he didn't have a job, and he said, please help me. And I said, okay, come work with me for, until you can get on your feet. And we spent a good year and a half together in business and as siblings. He lived with me. And one of the things I said to him is, even if you don't qualify for something, just apply. You never know. So an opportunity came and he didn't meet the requirements. The recruiter said to him, sorry. So he called them directly. And they just loved the fact that he called. And they said, come in and meet the team. He met the team. They loved his energy. And they're like, we know you don't have the experience, but you've worked with someone who vouches for you and you had the guts to call us. The job is yours. Now he's working at Investec. And before, if somebody said to him, you don't qualify, he wouldn't have applied. So for me, something as small as like, you never know, just apply, made a difference to a younger brother who at the time, I wasn't consciously mentoring him. I was just saying, if you don't put out 10 feelers where you don't qualify, you won't know. And you can always go back and say, hey, I know I didn't get the job. Do you have any feedback for me for next time? So I think about auditions and how I used to hate the fact that I was constantly getting rejected. And then I realized, actually, this is great experience. You get to go and have somebody tell you critically about your craft and you get to work on it. It's practice. It's part of growth. So I love going to auditions, even if I know I'm not going to get the job because I don't fit the brief. But somebody else gets to see me and say, maybe we can remember her for next time.
Now, Lebo, who are the role models of leadership that you would recommend future leaders should study and maybe learn from?
The role models of leadership that future leaders should study, it's the gogo or the mama in your street who is living on a grant but still manages to feed 5 children plus the neighbor's other 2 children. I still to this day don't know how they do it. You're getting 1,700 rands. You still manage to feed a house full of people and clothe them. What is this sorcery? I don't understand. Like, isn't that amazing that our parents were able to come from nothing? We never felt it as children. And they had clever ways of extending. And I'll give you a very small example. The one time I was with my mom and we're at with my granny at my granny's house. She had a lot of grandchildren. So at any given point in the holidays, there'd be about 12 children in the house. So the one morning, she was like, go see what's in the fridge so we can make breakfast. And I remember seeing there were only 5 eggs, but there were so many of us. And I said, there's not enough eggs. She's like, don't be silly. So she put the eggs in a bowl, added milk, added things, and we all ate. Such a simple lesson of you can always extend what you have. You can always make magic with little. So I think the perception today is you need so much to make things happen. You actually just need self and drive. So if you're going to study anyone, study the person who has nothing but still knows how to smile while they're waitering, who is living on a grant but manages to raise a child that is now the CEO on a JC listed company. Those are the people you should study. Yes, it's easy to go and read Richard Branson's book or Oprah's book. Their stories are unique and beautiful and you're going to pick up lessons. But your own neighbor can probably teach you more about leadership and influence that you yourself would never ever be able to imagine.
Now, Lebo, how can our listeners connect with you?
So I am very available on social media and I'm very engaging as well. So Facebook, Relebogile Mabotja, you can find my page, send messages, I always reply. You can find me on Twitter at Relebogile M or Instagram, Relebogile. And yeah, I'm always trying to help people. If you want to see the work of my foundation, you just go to rmfoundation.org.za. We're always looking for opportunities to help, but also if you want to help and you don't have money to give but you have time, feel free to get in touch with us. And then of course MetroFM 3 to 6 p.m. every single weekday. You can hear my voice there with the team. You can find me, I'm on TV, I feel like every third day, but I never know when. So I won't say when you can see me on TV, but I'm always out somewhere.
Right. And last but not least, Lebo, what is one piece of advice that you would really like to convey to future leaders that they should implement in their own lives?
One piece of advice for future leaders to implement in their own lives. I would say consistency. It's the one thing we all have the power to control. And it's the one thing that actually guarantees change. Even if you're taking half a foot forward every day, but you're consistent about it, you will reach your destination. The thing that I think fails a lot of people is lack of consistency, because everybody has great ideas. Everybody has, businesses they want to do, but it's only the ones who are consistent in their drive, in their passion, in their hustling, in their stalking of people that can give them opportunities that actually get it done. Be stubbornly, persistently consistent.
Well, Lebo, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And reminding us that the future depends very much on how we treat each other.
Oh, completely. We all need human beings. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Even the so-called most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump, they call him that, right? He needs people too. We all need people.
So true. Thank you.
Thank you.